Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Journey to Greatness with David McDonald, the GOAT. We are episode 104. 104. Hi, Cammy. You're on camera.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
What up? Yeah, so welcome to everyone. I know it's bright and early right now. We're actually on our way to Seattle. That's as much as I'll tell you. But yeah, no, we're just I don't know what really. We're just gonna improv and kind of feel what downloads with us. I'm here with Cindy, my sister Cam, my brother Mark, and
What's that?
we're all hanging. So tell me, Mark, what do you? How was your year this year?
My year this year goes right. My year this year was a little bit like that right turn you just took. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Lloyd. I would say that this year had a lot of personal growth and a lot of the gift of being able to be in solitude this year and kind of incubate and recalibrate and be away from like the energy of a lot of people, which I'm normally around most of the time, and what I do and what I love to do in my life. Yeah, basically straight. Yeah. So yeah, I had the opportunity to be away from all that energy and all that chaos, which I love. It's not negative chaos, but I feel like I've spent a year mostly in a lot of solitude and a lot of recalibrating where I'm at in my early 30s, being able to really see where I want to be for the next 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And it's a beautiful time to be reflecting on the new year and course correcting where I need to and giving a little dust off the shoulder for the things that have been accomplished correctly and as I wished them to be. So
Beautiful. So would you say that with the solitude that you feel like you've experienced, what's the one thing that you would say that you've taken away from that, and what have you learned about yourself?
Good questions. So as far as what have I taken away and learned from during the time period of solitude, I learned how much I was on a kind of like negative side, or just analyzing it negatively. I noticed that I was pretty dependent on being in a very energetic, chaotic mix of happenings. So like I do music a lot, and performance and production and rap and sing myself, as you can tell by my nasally congested voice today. And that environment is awesome, but it also has a lot of different kinds of characters in it, just like everybody else's. And I learned that solitude is good for me, but I actually thrive in the mix of things that are popping, basically, and I thrive in a medium that I can bounce ideas off of other people, that I can, get inspired to do something when I'm working with somebody and their energy is heightened and my energy is heightened and we're really excited about this idea. That is a very I thrive in that environment. I also have more, accountability wise, this is one really important thing for me. Accountability for me in a project setting is much more efficient when I have, I'll just call it the fear of failing in terms of failing somebody else, as opposed to just myself. That was something that I learned that I'm still kind of processing that. Like when I'm the only one beholden to my goal, when I'm the only one beholden to my results, and no one else is watching and no one else is dependent upon me being successful, I found my motivation to be a struggle sometimes. Like pulling a giant cement block behind me. At times, not all the time, but at times. And in reflection of things that I've strived for and succeeded in, there was almost always the element of accountability to others. You know, whether they were relying on me to succeed for their plans to be fulfilled, or vice versa, whatever. The accountability factor chemically changed my aggressiveness and my ability to commit and get things done in a particular way that was had to be a little bit more manufactured when that energy wasn't around me anymore. I feel like I just took 25 minutes to explain something hecka simple, but
no, that's good.
But I actually hadn't put it into words. It's more of just a feeling. I'm glad you asked that. That's how I feel about that, though. Before I go on.
Yeah, would you? I mean, that place that you find yourself in, or that you feel yourself in, would you say that that's a place that you're starting to get used to, or is that a place that you want to get used to from the standpoint of being comfortable?
You talking about solitude?
Yeah, or even what you just described, how you're I think by nature you thrive off of the energy of people around you. I know you as a person, so I would say that you appreciate the familial aspect of friendship, the brotherhood and sisterhood, but not having that for this year, or at least part of this year, to the degree that you wanted it to be. Would you say that that's that you're still in a healthy place, or that you could go another year in that same place and expect to grow tremendously?
Well, I'll preface this answer with saying that I have a beautiful partner sitting behind me, and Cam and I are very, very different when it comes to like energetically how we recharge. Like if you subscribe to the Myers-Briggs test, for example,
which is
what's that?
Which is
personality. It's a personality test, basically. Like, I mean, there's other terms that are attached to it, but it's a personality test. And in that, for those who know Myers-Briggs, Cam is an INFP, and I'm an ENFP. Is it ENFP? Yeah, ENFP, INFP. So the E is extrovert, the I is introvert. She's more introverted for her recharge. I'm more extroverted for my recharge, meaning that like when I'm feeling uninspired, when I'm feeling maybe drained or yada yada yada, let's just like put an emptying negative emotion to it. My recharge mode comes from interaction, pinballing myself through a mix of energy. Obviously, you are what you eat, so positive energy, positive growth-oriented, minds and spirits are more prone to inspire that kind of energy in myself. But I absorb a lot of that, and then sort of like in my a nuclear factory inside of me, I transform that into inspiration or progression or whatever, and I love dialogue, so as you can tell, I talk too much. So, pause. But yeah, so to answer your question finally, I don't feel that the isolation aspect of this past year is something that I would intentionally continue for growth purposes. What it did, though, was it helped me realize that there's a balance, a deal I'd have to strike internally that allows me to have solitude so I can hear the dialogue in my mind in meditation and in pause. I can hear the dialogue that's going on between my subconscious and my conscious mind, where I'm at, because I can easily run, do, rock shows, do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And like, meanwhile, there's this like pattern-based behavior, pattern-based thought processes that are happening. And if I don't stop, if I don't have that moment of internal reflection, I can run on autopilot and run myself into trouble or run myself into the ground, whatever, get sick, which rarely happens anymore.
Right.
But
right.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Never mind. I was about to blow Cam up. So yeah.
Would you say?
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it did.
Cool.
And I think think that place of being uncomfortable is cool. From what I can hear, from you, Mark, I would say that, or at least what I would say I would align with, is the fact that, yes, we are in comfortable spaces. Yes, uncomfortable things happen, but to be in a state of knowingness where you're actually paying attention so closely to how your life is playing out, and you're taking responsibility for your reality, gives you and provides you the space to actually reflect and build yourself up, essentially. Figure out where your weaknesses are, figure out where your strengths are, within that uncomfortable space, or that space of difference, I guess you could say. So I think that's actually beautiful. Cam, you want to chime in? How you feeling back there?
It's quite early for me.
It's quite early for her. I don't know if you guys will hear her. She's not soft-spoken by any stretch of the imagination.
Very soft-spoken.
Oh, okay.
Until 7 o'clock.
Until 7 o'clock.
What about you, Sam?
It's the same.
Babe.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
She's here.
All right, so she's sleeping in the back, maybe. Okay, so no, I just wanted to, again, improv. You guys can feel free to, you all can feel free to, continue to stay on, but we'll just pretty much have an open dialogue about really whatever. We're driving down I-5.
Yep.
With our lights on.
Hey, everybody's got a seatbelt.
I know,
it's
right?
Cool.
They do this on the what's that one show? That one show that is where they ride around with celebrities.
Illegally driving show.
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, I would say for me though, like of this year, so we'll among us here, we'll probably have this conversation again later before the new year, during that time. But at the end of each year, what I find myself doing is I reflect, and I reflect deeply on like what I went through this year, and like everything that's transpired for me, how I've impacted people around me, how other people have impacted me throughout the year, how my experiences and my decisions have been impacted by my thoughts and my manifestations. And so I love the end of each year, not for the sake of starting a new year and kind of turning a new chapter, but more so just being able to look back, having an attentive 365 days, purposeful living, type of life. I feel like you're able to really point out and say, okay, this is something I want to change, or this is something that I want to do, or this is something I want to build toward, this is something that I want, this is something I desire. And that really excites me going into 2018, I would say. And the biggest thing around being able to build and reflect from that point is it's just really an encouragement to grow and dream bigger, because when you sit back and you look at your goals, and when you sit back and you look at the person that you were a year ago, and you fast forward that to now, I'm sure a lot has changed, and I'll give everybody that space for growth. But for me personally, I can say a lot has changed. And so, I was just having a conversation the other day with Sin, and which is my fiance, for everybody out there. I was just having a conversation with her the other day, and I was just like, you know what? Like, everything has come, like in waves of blessings. And, we've seen our fair, share of challenges. We've seen our fair share of highs. But what I came to realize was, I was like, we need to dream bigger. Like, what is stopping us from dreaming bigger? And when I say dream bigger, it's like, okay, we may have a monetary aspiration of making $100,000 a year. We may have an aspiration to, sacrificing pet peeves, I guess you could say, like not unplugging the iron. Okay, like we might work through things like that, but the thing
close to home.
Yeah. But the thing is like when we look at our life now, and and we look at just from this 1 year, and we look at what we've achieved this year, going into 2018, I'm so encouraged where I'm like, man, we're not dreaming big enough. Like, not in the sense of lack or not coming from a place of lack, but more so like from a place of like there are no limits. So like everything that's defined around us about what we should and how we can and where we should and how to be, all of those things, there is no limit to that. There is no description for that. And like for us to box ourselves into a place of, okay, this is what we're gonna do, this is how it's gonna work out, happily ever after. Forget that. Like, how can we dream bigger? What do we want to aspire? How do we want to change the world? How do we want to do this? How do we want to do that? And it like I had that conversation with her yesterday or today, and I was like, we just gotta dream bigger, because if we accomplish everything that we set out to do, you know, per our character or per, you know, any other material thing that we want to achieve, or a spiritual alignment or reliability that, you know, we build up, you know, the world and everything is endless and at our fingertips to take or to enjoy, I should say. What do you think about that?
I think it's, well, I mean, there's always different perspectives on what success is, you know, because that's such a blanket word for an infinite number of things, right? I mean, you could replace the word success with like eternal dream, whatever, or, you know, sociological standards of living, whatever, like your choice may be. But I love the open expansiveness of offering up the opportunity for yourself, you and your partner, your friends, people that have been following you on here, to push the limits of what their dreams are for their lifestyle. Obviously, that's the first thing we think of, I think, a lot of us. But also just like internally and for themselves as a human being, as a human species, you know, like the ability to expand past perhaps what, you know, let me just figure out a way to say this. To expand dreams past what we're sold dreams are, I guess, would be what I'm trying to get at. You know, in the commercial sense, in the marketing sense. I mean, that industry makes, like, if you're a very good marketer, you make a lot of money because it's effective psychological detritus, you know? So it works. A lot of us are affected by that because they do a very good job at what they do. But I think the opportunity to say, you know, to dream bigger allows myself at least to poke around inside my mind and my heart, like what is a big dream in my opinion. Analyze that, you know, like is that true? Is that true to myself? You know, is this height of career? Is this height of you know, luxury vehicles? Is this height of you know, land owning, whatever it is, really like the limit to my aspirations as a human being? We only get one life, you know, like at least on this plane. Right. And you know, is that the end all be all of my aspirations? You know, and one of the things I thought about too recently was analyzing the trajectory of my life and like how, you know, you have these seasons in life, you know, just like you do here on Earth. And I was thinking about like the sunset season of life, you know, like if we're blessed to get to the stage where we're elders. And I know that at least, you know, American culture has a tough time with their elders. It's kind of like an ushering away of them to the corner in some cases. But, you know, my cultural family, you know, I definitely know, being blessed to be involved in you and Sin's family, I get to see, you know, Filipino culture and everything like that. And I've been analyzing what I would like to be in the future as an elderly man in society. And the reason I bring that up involving dreams is just that the wise, the elderly, the people who have experienced a full life have the opportunity to be teachers. I know some people are inspired to become teachers younger in life, and that's awesome. feel like it's pretty much like the gift you have to give when you're older is all the wisdom from life that you've garnered over time, and like making mistakes and doing things right, being bold, being cowardly, all these things that you can pass on to younger folks, you know. I feel like that's not commonplace outside of scholastic institutions. Culturally, we don't seek our elderly to like learn from them. They're kind of in old folks' homes and all that kind of stuff tucked away. So I was thinking about like what would a program be like to involve people that are elderly to interact with the younger, you know, maybe like people in their teens, early to late teens, perhaps. Anyways, not fleshed out, but you know, that came from me thinking beyond like the dreams of the next year, the next 5 years, and into like the way future, you know, like what type of man do I want to be, expanded into dreams and expanded into like how do I want to exit this world, you know, what type of influence and activities can I influence this world with, even in the sunset of my life, you know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense actually. I think it's kind of cool to think from that, because I mean, you know, we talked about on the journey all the time that, you know, if you want to achieve something, then you want to live as if you're at the end already, you know. So if I envision,
how does that tie into what I was just talking about then? That's interesting.
Well, I'm about to tell you right now.
Welcome to the journey.
Truth. But you know, living from the end already, right? You know, and you know, we've done some work, Liz and our group, and you know, we've had those discussions of, you know, seeing ourselves in that place of receiving, you know, what we want to receive, and you know, creating, you know, material items that replicate or that symbolize a token of what we're supposed to, you know, receive. So if it's a diploma, for example, if you say, well, hey, I really want to go to college and I want to get a scholarship, and then you write, or perfect example, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey said, I want to have, you know, make $10 million.
Oh, the check.
And I want to do this, that, and the other. And what he did was he went to the top. He went to California, and he went to the Hollywood sign in California. And then he wrote himself a $10 million check. And then he got his first $10 million check when he made Dumber and Dumber. And so my point is he already saw himself at the end. But what's even deeper about what I think you're saying, Marcus, is you're saying you're looking at your life from the end of, you know 40, 60 years from now, being old and then giving back. That's really cool, because damn, like that's man, like to operate from that standpoint of what is it going to look like when I'm an elder, and how am I going to feel? That's actually really important, and that's actually really, really serious though, because you don't really think about the how things are going to happen. You just know, and you have that confidence within you that, you know, you are this person that you claim your I am to be. But being at that place of being 70 or 80 years old and seeing yourself as the man, or as a man defined as X, that's interesting, because the how is from right now 40 years up until 60. You see what I'm saying? So that's pretty interesting. I wonder how that variable would affect the equation of manifestation from a day-to-day level. You know what I mean? No. Because the greater scale is how from 40 to 60 years versus, you know, something short of like maybe 5 years.
Right.
Like this.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things about our two ideas colliding here in this conversation is that when you responded after what I felt like was kind of a tangent, it was one of the things that is interesting that came up from your response internally for me was that what about meditating backwards from the elderly, supposedly wiser man that I am in this future, right? Meditating on moving backwards through time with that same essence, though, that same wizened, loving, caring, and of lessons type of spiritually oriented person. I don't mean spiritually in the sense of like spirituality necessarily, but just like that's where my core would be at in this vision of the future, right? Then to kind of pull that into the present self, you know, like the present me as that person. And then also what came up for me when you responded to was like and because you were talking about, you know, manifestation, right? I was thinking like the ability to like take risk, right? To take risks or perceived risks, to live life to the fullest, to like seize the day, do all those things. Some of that inspiration can come from the fact that like I have this desire, right? And just hypothetically, I have this desire to be this wizened, you know, teacher of life, not, you know, a subject in a scholastic environment, right? Just life in general. Like, do I want to be telling somebody about the regret I have for not doing this thing that's in front of me in this present moment right now? Or do I want to be able to describe the exhilaration and the risk and like explosive gains that happened because I did do something that I was afraid of doing, you know? Does that make sense? I'm saying like to use this future projection of something that's awesome for the future and pull it into the present moment gives me the opportunity to say like, when I am this man in this position of being able to pass on my information to a younger man, a younger lady, whatever, do I want to, in this moment I'm in right now in the present where I have this situation in front of me, do I want to be in a position to say, I hesitated, I didn't follow through, I was afraid, so I like, you know, I didn't do it or whatever, and this is what happened because of that, or didn't happen because of that? Or do I want to say, man, I was afraid, I had reservations, but you know what?
I did
YOLO.
Yeah. But don't be stupid.
No, yeah. Of course, YOLO is a double-edged sword. That's why nobody says it anymore. Too many people went to the hospital because of YOLO. Rest in peace, YOLO. But
that's real.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
do I want to be the old man saying I wish I had? This is not a new concept, but it's kind of interesting, tied into the conversation that naturally evolved just now. It's just like, do I want to, in the sunset of my life, in this kind of teacherly position, be the type of man that says, man, I wish I had done that. Wish I had asked that girl to dance. Wish I had taken that train. Wish I had, you know, rocked that show. Wish I had put out that album, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Wish I had bought that land.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, because...
Reminds me of the story of OJ. He's like, I wish I had bought that. Whatever he's talking about. Anyway.
With Jay-Z?
Yeah. Was it Dumbo? Yeah, it's Dumbo. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's interesting too, though, because now I'm thinking also, it's like, I guess from a more cliche standpoint, it's kind of like we could just say, well, instead of saying what's your 5 and 10 year goal, I've never ever in my life had anyone ask me, what is your 60-year goal? Yeah, you got 5-10 year goals, that's cute. Right. What's your 60-year goal? What's your geriatric goal?
Yeah,
buddy? You know? So, or what's your 30-year goal, your 40-year goal? Like, geez, man, like, imagine that takes some serious work. But it's cool. I think it's important, though, because to span and look back or look that far ahead or see yourself and meditate in a place that far ahead and then to work backwards, I think would be really powerful because, like we said before, you know, it'll give you enough, like, that additional variable, I think, will help you along the way, you know, knowing that you're going to be that person at 60, you know, age 60 or age 50, and that could be really beneficial. So that might just be something to stew on, really. But that was an interesting perspective. And not only that, I mean, it is kind of pitiful and mistaken that older or elders are thrown away in a corner, or thrown, put into an adult, family home or what have you, because they really are, and we talked about this on the journey also. They really are so valuable. Like, they've been, a lot of people have been living for 40, 50, anybody living for 40 or 50 years, like, they've probably seen some stuff. And so,
guaranteed,
to like have that conversation, and then to even take it to like even like the next generation, past baby boomers and such, when you start getting into like 1920s, 1930s, I think the level and the difference in knowledge changes so much. And I think it's just like reading a book. What was I watching? I got tagged in a post about a young man who started this book club out in Ferguson. And long story short, it says cool kids read or something like that. And I think it's awesome, because I think cool kids do read. But the cool kids, right, quote unquote, may have some other type of feeling toward that. But my point is Oprah came on camera and she said, cool kids do read. She's like, you're right, great job. You're showing and proving the world something different. I totally forgot my point. My head just started to itch. But
you're kind of multitasking right now, so all is forgiven.
She said no. This is what she said. She said, it's so wonderful that you are reading. And this is another truth that kind of stamped right in the middle of my forehead from our conversations that we have on the journey. And she said that when you read, it allows you to open up your imagination to limitless possibilities. When you read, it allows you to unlock your mind to limitless possibilities, or your imagination to limitless possibilities. And I think that's really cool, because even in that essence, or in that sense, you have a person, an individual who has potentially pondered, or maybe not pondered, but more than times than not, pondered on what their topic is, what they're writing about, what they want their book to convey, etc., etc. And so when you read books, you're able to capture, and if you read books from people who wrote them way back in the day, 1930, 1940, you're able to capture the mindset at that time. And then you're able to compare and do an analysis on, okay, how are things changing? How are things coming back around? Like the brand champion. It's like, how...
Fila.
Fila. It's like, we're seeing... and they say history repeats itself, right? Yeah, no, of course, no doubt. But my point is like, when you take that time to read, and when you take that time to invest your time into considering the other perspective, you grow so much, and you can't put a price tag on that at all. You know what I mean?
I do. And not to beat this topic to death, but readdressing, the importance of, if you are a younger person, whatever you consider that to be. I consider myself a younger person still.
I'm a teenager.
Hey.
I'm a teenager.
I definitely act like one sometimes, and I'm crazy. But reaching to the folks that are much older than you. That's the thing, is my perspective comes from the fact that I've always had older people in my life. Not always like blood family either. Like, I've had just like, life is just like sent people through my path, or I've found my way into their path, and I've always had people there, men and women who are much older than me in my life, that have given me advice and like kind of been there for me when I'm going through stuff or whatever. And I'd say that, anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second too. You can learn something from anyone if you want to. If you have curiosity in your heart, in your mind, you can learn something from every single person you meet. that could be through observing them, like from afar, you know, like they might be a little scary. You're like, I don't want to go up and talk to this person, but you can observe them. You can learn something about being safe around weird people from that person. That person just helped teach you something about life, you know. You can learn something from anyone. And I'm always interested to like learn about new people. Like I always love learning about the lives and like the interests of people that I meet. When it comes to people much older than myself, or what we would consider elderly folks, wise people, perhaps not always guaranteed, but even, you know, like for example, I've been recovered alcoholic and addicts for 15 years. The people that I have met aren't always clean and sober people through that process, you know, in that environment. But I always learn, respectfully, ways to live life better, and respectfully, ways to avoid to live life in a horrible way, based off of my knowledge of self and my knowledge of my own body and mind. So, you know, people that I meet that are currently in a state of self-destructive behavior, you know, they also teach me a lot about myself and about life, you know, even if I don't necessarily have a full-on conversation with them. And the desire to be curious, and it is an intention to be curious about others, is an important, and I feel like a dying art in a lot of ways. Not definitely grounded in the negative. I just feel like we're in a state of fluctuation with our social interactions right now. Technology moves so quickly that we haven't really adapted, or we're being adapted to different forms of getting to know each other, like i.e. what we're using right now to speak to you. And personal one-on-one interaction is a little bit more rare, a little bit more of an uncomfortable experience for people lately, just in general. And so it'd be interesting to find a way to help people collide a little easier, you know, in that sort of young meet the old scenario we had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, actually. And I think not only, you know, for the young to collide with the old, but for the young to collide with the young too, you know. Not even more.
What does that look like to you?
To me?
Yeah, because I feel like we do interact, all of us, to some degree. But what does that look like in your inspired comment?
I personally feel that young colliding with the young is, what does it look like to me? It looks like happiness and love. And I say that because everybody yearns to be, well, like we were talking about the other day, I believe that everyone comes from a place of love. However they define it, however, you know, whether they felt it or not, at one point or another, they've stemmed or they've came from epitome of love, right? And so when you have a vessel or you have a spirit of another person giving you that, giving you all that love, and giving you space to love and be who you are, you know, that, I think that's happiness, you know, because, and I mean, I've even experienced it, you know, when we had our vision boards, when we did our vision board, activity day. That was, you know, super fun to me, you know, and it was cool because we literally just sat in the room and didn't have our phones and just were being ridiculously goofy, you know, we were eating, we were cutting paper, we were gluing stuff down, you know, just kind of getting, I think, back to the primal nature of what it means to be a person, what it means to be a human, you know. The stuff that we used to do, you know, where you could just, you know, dive right in and have intellectual conversation. Because I feel that when they say, like, surround yourself with people around you who are going to make you better, it's this, I mean, I can't really say it's only this kind of conversation, but it's this type of conversation these are the type of conversations that you want to build on. These are the type of relationships you want to have, in my opinion, because anything else, well, the opposite side of that, from what I've seen, is other things, and those don't necessarily serve me the way that I wish to be served. So I don't really partake in them too much. So, but it's always good to like just be able to bounce ideas, like realistically bounce ideas off of people who are around you. And I think colliding with our generation to our generation is so important, you know, so we can do that with each other, you know. And I think that's a really powerful way to stay communicated, stay connected. But that's why we started this journey. We started this journey because I wanted, or I had the ambition, or I felt that the universe was telling me, you know, to start this journey, not only to hold myself accountable as one of our, you know, lead goals that we were talking about yesterday, our lead measures, right? Was to, our lag goals was to create a discipline and a regimen for myself personally, and then to create a space of community where people can come together and kind of learn together. Now, the only thing that we've been really trying to work through here now is, okay, well, how do you get into a space of more engagement? So then I've, you know, pondered and thrown around some ideas of having maybe where I'm like virtually speaking about, this is like totally insight for anybody who's like watching, because I haven't spoken to anybody about this, but featured people, or featured guests on the journey to greatness in the morning. And I know Liz and I briefly talked about that, but featuring people where you can hear other perspectives, you can hear the community, you know, and that's kind of what I want, because I feel like everybody has something to say, and everybody's story is valuable, just like you were talking about. You can learn something from everyone. And I think, you know, providing that platform for people to do that kind of, you know, just to get on, and whether it's something, you know, that they want to talk about publicly or they want to work through publicly, at least it's in an open space to their level of comfort that can be dialogued around. And I think that's awesome. And it's constructive too, you know, rather than destructive. And I mean, I'm sure everybody out there, they can attest. The journey to greatness, you can't do anything. Pause.
Out of context.
Yeah, the journey to greatness. Your life changes when you enter into the journey to greatness. Your life has to change, because if your life doesn't change, well, pause. I feel like my life has changed as I've been, but I'm sure some other, you know, others out there would attest that, you know, your lifestyle changes when you're on this journey. And so I think that's a big difference. That's a big difference maker, because then you're being a direct advocate of not only change but being uncomfortable, and ultimately, you know, growing into the spiritual, or just maybe even the physical person that you wish to be. So,
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So when you is this 101?
Is it what? Oh, 104.
104.
Yeah.
104.
Yeah.
Wow, bro. That's really dope.
Thanks.
When you asked me a question like at the very beginning of this, and it was roughly, what is this year? What has this year brought to you as far as like lessons of self, lessons or awareness of? Has this year brought you, David, any new insights to self? Any new insights to awareness of like the way you tick? Any new insights or things that you feel valid to present that you grew through that were perhaps challenging? I mean, I feel like there's so much knowing you, that I feel like I could like interject in there, but I would rather see where you go with that. Just off the top.
I feel we will never fail. If you have a knowingness within you that the goals that you set for yourself are going to be achieved, and you have that overwhelming confidence, not arrogance, but confidence, humility and confidence that you are going to achieve it, you will never fail. And I can guarantee you that. And like I've said before, I'd probably say November to December, interestingly, have been some of my strongest months in real estate, but have been one of the most uncomfortable months in real estate.
Sorry, I'm snapping for success.
Thanks.
It's like a poetry slam or something. Well done.
Yeah. But like, it's been, I can tell you guys, it's been hell and high water. And but I've become addicted to being uncomfortable. It's a very, very strange feeling. Like, Mark, you and I were talking about this actually at the cigar lounge, and this year like really showed me that things don't appear. Things that I think circle around the emotional fear, or if anything having to pertain to fear or lack thereof, doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I don't know if you guys remember, but that movie, the most impactful part of that whole entire movie was when the clown was hanging halfway into a drain well, and everybody fought, all the little kids fought against him, and pretty much, came to the conclusion of, or the synopsis of that last scene was that fear is an illusion. And then the clown says fear, and then he falls down the hole, and then he disappears forever. Everybody's lives.
Ruined the movie.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, watch the TV version with Tim Curry as Pennywise instead.
So
it's fear is an illusion, and I think that.
How do you utilize that? How do you concretely utilize the idea that fear is an illusion?
I'm off the Richter, bro. I'm off the Richter.
That doesn't tell me anything. I already know that.
Oh man,
tell me something I don't know.
I'm off the Richter. I'm off the Richter scale of normality. Like, there's nothing. There is.
Hold up. Quotable of 2017's conclusion. I'm off the Richter scale. Wait, what'd you say? Of normality.
There is nothing.
I, David McDonald, am off the Richter scale of normality. Congratulations for being present to observe this groundbreaking moment. Back to your regularly scheduled program.
No, it's like you guys.
Sorry.
Man.
The question was, how do you utilize the knowledge that fear is an illusion? How is that tool utilized in your life?
Well, I think it just goes over to just again knowing you will never fail, and it's just when you go through an experience and the only outcome is success, how can you feel negative about anything? Granted, you may not get the exact result that you want, okay? You may not get the exact result that you want. But even that result that you're getting, you look at that as a success. What can you be upset at? Like, man, I can't tell you. I can't even begin to tell you. So, I mean, to know that fear is an illusion, my risk tolerance is super high.
Okay.
To know that fear is an illusion, my confidence is super high when it comes to trying new things.
Okay.
The way I feel about myself, the love I have for myself increases because I'm not fearful of how other people perceive me to be.
Right.
So that just brings me so much higher level of comfort and love, I guess, self-love. And then to know that fear is an illusion, like I feel like when we evolve to a point mentally where we can transcend the surface level analysis or surface level mindset of looking at scenarios, right? Where we only consider usually a black and white angle, so A or B rather than C, D, and Z angles. when you transcend to that CD and that Z angle, and you're able to look at things from a different lens, but the scope is still from a positivity and optimistic standpoint, I feel like you are able to identify, and when you listen to people talk, you can hear them. You can hear where their truest essence lays within them. And then what that does is not from a point of judgment, but more from a point of understanding. You know how to better create the space for them to be the best that they can be, and gently nudge or gently challenge them in their beliefs, or introduce a new concept to them, that could be potentially challenging or uncomfortable for them. And I think, again, going back to the human-human interaction, you're not weird because you're on your phone for 10 hours out of the 24 in a day, going like this, on your Facebook. That's not weird.
Which, by the way, hit that like button, lady.
I know, right? You're not weird for doing that, right? But the thing is I feel like as a social responsibility for me, I have to know how to communicate with someone who may spend 10 hours going like this on their Facebook. Absolutely. Or whatever their personality may evolve to, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just like I feel like it's my social responsibility to at least be mindful of people who don't like the color red, or whatever. And you can get that from the conversation that you have. And the more and more you have these conversations with people, I feel like you're able to adapt. It's kind of like a non-growing. It's like a robot, like Alexa. The more you use her, right, the more she learns your habits. The more she learns the type of music that you like. The more she, learns your speech. The more she learns your pronunciation. She gets more sophisticated. The more and more you talk to different people, because everybody is so different. But what's interesting, everybody kind of shapes around these 4 personalities, right? Or they're a mix of multiple, in which it, kind of complicates it a little bit more. But it's interesting to take time to kind of learn, like, okay, what gets people going? Because at the end of the day, when you can identify that, like I was at the store yesterday, right? And the lady asked me the question. I asked her, how much does this jacket cost? And she said, well, look at the tag. It's right on it. And I was like, it's not my first rodeo. I've been shopping before, and sometimes the tags are wrong. Right? Sometimes they're mislabeled. So I was like, can you tell me how much this is? And then she's like, well, what's on the tag? And I said, okay. I was like, can you please scan this and tell me how much this jacket costs? And I was like, do you not consider the possibility that it could possibly be mismarked or mispriced? And she goes, no, it's usually always right? Something like along those lines.
Usually always right.
Right?
I love that. So, I love that combo.
I'm feeling some type of like energetic exchange where I'm not aligned with. I'm like, this is over my head right now. And it's the end of the day. Super late. I was tired. I've been up since 5. Right? It's like 9, 10. It's like 10 o'clock. It was 10:30 at night. And then she persists. She goes, Cindy gives me her jacket, right? And I'm holding her jacket in my hand. And I go to put that into the bag that we're bagging up. And she goes, wait, so whose jacket is that? Right? And then
familiar scenario.
I'm like, well, that's our jacket. And I like pull open the tag, right? And I'm like, it's our jacket, right? She's like, oh, so she's wearing 2 jackets? I was like, right? In my mind, though, right? So in my mind, my natural reaction was like, you have a serious problem with
various colorful responses.
And then she made some comment to like red, white, and blue in the American flag.
What? Sorry.
And so within me, like there's a little switch where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be disrespectful to this lady in front of me, but I'm definitely gonna politically and correctly address her and her comments that she's making to me right now, right? But I feel myself.
You saw it as a teachable moment.
It was crazy.
You see this? Yeah.
Very teachable.
Of course, the ego gets involved, but you felt it was a teachable moment. That's why I like to call that, because it's not my term, but like, because it changes it from like teaching somebody a lesson, because you're going to learn something too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a teachable moment for both of us. I get to learn how to express an idea to you in a non-threatening way.
Yeah, that's fair. But
you be like, we trying to steal it?
Yeah, you trying to steal a thief?
Yeah, this is a family show right now.
Yeah,
so
I know.
It's 5 a.m. It's a family show. Trying to.
But at the end of the day, PG, I know, right? But at the end of the day, I didn't say anything. And the one of the biggest realizations that I had going to that point of just socially being under, I feel like it's to a degree my responsibility to understand where people are coming from. Had I had said something, I don't think there would have been confrontation because of the way I would have said it. But I felt like it would have been a very teachable moment. However, I was more upset that I even allowed myself to have my button pushed by this lady's comments. And because of that, I was like, you don't have any reason to say anything at all. Like, quite frankly.
Interesting.
Because it was like, what she is saying is a direct image or perception of what's going on within her and what she's going through, you see. But I feel that, and one of my really good friends, Daoud, he said that, you know,
what's up, D, if you're watching?
Yeah, what's good? He said that, you know, a lot of the times when it comes to like just anything really negative, I'll just leave it at that general. It's usually going to come from a place from within, and it has nothing to do with you. Like, don't take it personal. The only thing you have to do, he didn't say this, but the way I took that one thought, don't take it personal, has nothing to do with you. There's not a direct attack on you. The way that I took that is the only thing we have to do, or one of our few responsibilities as humans, right, is just to make sure that we keep our dignity, right, where we're not getting to a point where we're being mistreated. Have a voice, stand up, be strong for yourself, absolutely. But then on the flip side of that, which is the caveat, find a space to exit. Just leave the scenario, either by A, not saying anything at all, or by just completely walking away. And you'll know what's right, but my whole point is like, how do you reach the height, the epitome of, the maximum of, the highest peak of spiritual reliability? You know, where people can't say anything to you that will shake you. You know? Like, how can you, what rituals can you put in place in your mind that can help you diffuse yourself from even starting to go to this point, this point, this point? She said that, oh, that means this, that means this, that means this, that means this. And then you get into a whirlwind and you sit there and come up with a really clever response. You say it hurts her feelings. She gets fired up or she doesn't. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, what was that for? And so, I don't know, I guess it kind of comes down, I guess, to like taking responsibility for yourself too. But
I know that this is at risk of sounding corny, but it's love. If you want to boil it down, the response to diffuse or embrace any situation like that is love. And then the form that it takes in a more refined or more detailed analysis in the situation that you provided, if I was in your shoes, would be that this to get to this state, though, I have to have space between my ego, my gut reaction, my animal, you know, and the situation. So that's a different process. That's a daily process. You know, like morning meditation helps you start the day with that space, you know. But let's assume that there's some modicum of space there. In that space, I get to look at this lady and recognize myself. And not in a selfish way, like everybody's like me.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody, you know?
Yeah.
But there's an essence of self, there's an essence of spirit, there's an essence of ego in this woman, this individual, this human in front of me. That's different shapes, but the same exact material as what makes me tick. You know, all the gears, cogs, and oil are all the same, all manufactured in the same factory as this person in front of me. Now, there is such thing as a teachable moment where my ego may inform me that there's a teachable moment to be had. My ego might be like, "What you just say?"
Yeah.
You know, like, how dare I never? how dare you?
Dare you?
Always wanted to say
Dare
that.
you
out
talk
loud.
to me that way?
Rubbish. So,
Off with
but
that.
yeah, my ego may alert me if I was unaware that there is a teachable moment. We all know what that feels like. Flare, right? The solar flare. All of us have varying degrees of that reaction.
Woo! Ric Flair! Woo! Just turn it up on him real quick.
Man, I hope my ego is not Ric Flair. With cocaine and a bunch of crazy stuff right now. But yeah, so that pause necessary, that space, I mean, the ego may inform you that you've been insulted and you need to do something about it, right? But that ego kind of warning bell goes off, and then you go, teachable moment. You know, here's a teachable moment. Now, the obvious portion is like, I'm gonna correct this person's behavior, right? There's straight ego.
Yeah.
But you can inform that person that their behavior was received or could be received by someone else in the future in some type of way, right? Like rude / racist / judgmental, whatever it may be, right? And then you had an opportunity. Your teachable moment was also to create space,
Right.
to love, to recognize the human being in front of you as no different than self, just a different manifestation of your own self.
Right.
And you cannot recognize something you don't resonate with to some degree.
Right.
You cannot recognize a behavior that you don't yourself understand well enough to see it. It'd be like, you know, if you didn't know the type of behavior that this person approaches you with that rubs you the wrong way. If you don't live in that space or accept that behavior, it'd be like a colorblind person being described the color red. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
And that's something I try to remember too, is like,
We all are extensions of each other.
absolutely.
But I think, you know, from a negative standpoint, well, from a not so positive, negative, same thing. But from a standpoint of maybe like just coming off a certain type of way, from a positive standpoint, I think that's what gives me so much hope in humanity. You know, because I believe in that love element and that it's so powerful that, you know, the more we, just as we can identify the negative, the love overpowers that positive, or excuse me, just how we can identify the negative, the love overpowers that negative. And because I feel like I experience the love so much, or I see it so much in people, that it would take, you know, 1% of the love to conquer over, you know, 50% of the negative. But to get that 1% of love, it's so concentrated, you know what I mean, that it takes a little bit more work. But if it was, when that happens, or when that time comes to pass, when we have to be about one or the other, I think, you know, that as people, we'll be there.
I love what you're doing, man.
Thanks, bro.
I love being in a side carriage in your journey to greatness.
You're crazy. But all right, you guys, I love you, man.
It was a pleasure being here today.
We were with you guys for an hour. Thanks for, you know, riding with us. And
Literally.
on behalf of Marcus and I, hope you all have a wonderful day. And we love you. And make it a great day. 4th of July. New Year's is right around the corner.
Damn, you're looking into the future, bro.
New Year's is right around the corner. So we'll be on tomorrow at 5. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 105. Love you guys, and have an excellent day. Peace. Mm.